Welcome to How I Built My Fundraising Consultancy, the stories behind the people driving results in the nonprofit sector.
We assess the needs of each and every one of our clients and then develop programs and services that will take them from where they are to where they want to be.
Hi there, welcome to How I Built My Fundraising Consultancy. I'm Tim Chatton, Marketing Solutionist at MarketSmart. Today on the show is David A. Mersky, Founder and Managing Director at Mersky, Jaffe & Associates. David has been a fundraising consultant for now 25 years. In today's interview, you'll learn a great tip for finding clients early on in your consultancy and what it looks like to build a strong referral-based business. Without further ado, here's David. Welcome, David.
Thanks, Tim. It's great to be with you.
So, David, what were you doing prior to being a consultant?
So that's a long story. I started out in nonprofits. I worked in a large national organization, ran first a region for them, and then became its chief development officer. Then I spent 8 years on Wall Street in an investment banking firm, running the syndicate, which is the function that raises all the capital, and managed the sales force. Then moved back into the nonprofit world, where I became the chief development officer for Boston's Jewish Federation, the Combined Jewish Philanthropies. And after 4 years of that, left and started my own practice. First Mersky and Associates, which then became Mersky, Jaffe and Associates when I took on a partner 3 years later.
What encouraged you to transition from being the chief development officer for Boston's Jewish Federation to starting your own consultancy?
I think it was more a desire to be on my own and to be able to have a diversity of experience, serving a range of organizations. That's really what I think drove me initially.
Okay. And were there any frustrations when you were just working with your one employer at the time, as far as lessons you took when you started your consultancy, of like kind of maybe pitfalls that you should avoid as a nonprofit?
Well, I certainly saw great practice in governance and in development and fundraising in the nonprofit experiences which I had. And I looked to take what I had learned and apply it to organizations that might not have the resources that these very large, complex enterprises did, for which I had been working.
Yeah. When you did take the leap to become a consultant, did you wait until you had a client, or were you doing it kind of in part-time until you...
Well, no, what really happened was I kind of took some time off. I had burned out, and I took a few months off to kind of contemplate my navel, figure out what I wanted to be when I grew up, and then realized that with 2 kids in college, I needed to start bringing some money in. And there was no one enterprise that really animated me, or that didn't say to me, you're too old, you're overqualified, in whatever, code words they used in those days. And so one thing led to another, and I picked up one client and then another. And before I knew it, I had a consulting practice, and I had more business than I knew what to do with.
That's a good problem to have.
It certainly was.
Yeah. So the beginning wasn't a tough beginning for you. It got rolling pretty quickly for you.
No, it did. I mean, I had a very simple business plan. My first business plan said I was living in Boston at the time, as I am now. I wouldn't go outside of Route 128, which is the first highway circling the city. I had it with international and national travel. I didn't need to go to the airport anymore. Well, since then, things have changed. I now travel all over the country and, in fact, globally. I originally said I was going to be a one-person shop. I wasn't going to have the responsibilities that I had had when I was an employee of large organizations, of hiring and supervising and firing people. I was going to just be by myself and do it all myself. Well, now I have a partner and I have 6 associates, and we've grown quite a bit since I first started more than 25 years ago.
In the beginning, the kind of work you were doing, it was everything from finding the clients to writing campaigns for them, or what was the work entail?
Absolutely everything. I remember the first client that I had was the USS Constitution Museum, and I saw that they were advertising for a director of development, and they had a very, very tiny budget for it. And I said to them, instead of hiring somebody at that rate, why don't you engage me part-time? Let me come in and take a look at your systems and how you go about raising money, and then redefine the position and help you conduct the search, and then train the person whom you ultimately agree to hire and stay with them during the first year of their employment so that you would be able to be assured of their success. And essentially, that's what we do now in Mersky, Jaffe & Associates. We have a division that does executive search. But before we do a search, we come in and we do an organizational and development assessment. We take a look at how they raise money, what things they might do differently or better, what things they're doing well. We make sure that everybody has a good job description. Sometimes we end up doing a search for them. And when we do, we remain in a consultative role with the new hire through at least a year until they're on their own and they can manage the business which they've been brought in to do.
Is the majority of this new staff you're hiring on, are they at the beginning of their careers where they're easy to mold, or are you in the position of there's some maybe set in stone kind of people that are hard to work with?
So it runs the range. Generally speaking, when we are engaged to do a search, we are brought in because they're looking for somebody at the C level, a chief development officer, a chief executive officer for a nonprofit. Once we've done that, we often then are asked, could you also find us a major gifts officer, or could you find us an annual fund director, or things of that nature, who are middle management or even entry-level people. And once we've created a relationship with the client, we want to continue to serve them, as you can well imagine.
Right.
So we do get into searches that are at entry level and middle management level, as well as the senior management level.
Okay. And as far as at the beginning and I guess throughout the consultancy, has there been any kind of financial investment to have that be successful for you, or what was that looking like?
So I had a wonderful advisor who said to me, don't spend any money you don't have to. Mm-hmm. And so I had the good fortune of having a space in my house where I kept my office for the first 7 or 8 years. The only expense I had was every now and then upgrading my computer systems, creating a website for the firm, but that was about it. So it was capital lean, but it was very labor intensive. And I figured out quickly that I needed to be spending in the initial period 30 to 40% of my time marketing the firm and selling my services to prospective clients. But after a number of years, it's now everything almost comes to us. We spend a lot of time continuing to market the firm in general, and certainly once somebody raises their hand saying they're interested in working with us to either raise money for a capital campaign or to enhance their annual fund or to conduct a search, we spend a lot of time selling to them so that they feel comfortable in buying from us. But at the same token, it's not nearly as much time now spent doing that as it was when we first started. After 25 years, I think we have a well-deserved reputation.
Yeah, rightfully so. 25 years ago, what was the atmosphere like, the internet, that was not as big of a thing, if at all?
It really hardly existed. I mean, Al Gore wasn't even the vice president. But the truth is that much of the things that we used to do for marketing, we don't do anymore. It was a lot of being out there and networking and going to conferences and like. We're in a good position now where we don't have to do that quite as much, since much of our business, if not all of it, comes by way of referral to us. Yet we still are out there. I've published a couple of books on fundraising and on board governance. I've written regularly in that we publish an electronic newsletter, now weekly. We started out doing it monthly. I can even remember when we did it in print on a monthly basis. The world has changed a lot in the way in which you can reach people. Our firm generally is appealing to people of a certain age as it relates to making the buy, people who are in leadership roles. They're less amenable to social media than perhaps younger people are. So we're not as intensely involved in things like Facebook or Instagram, though we do tweet regularly. We're all involved in LinkedIn. Yet our market is really going to be much more responsive to the face-to-face encounter, which is how I come to be with you today here in College Park.
Yeah, so even LinkedIn, with the type of clients you're trying to approach, they're not even there. They're above like spending time there.
Well, whether they do or they don't, individually or corporately, the truth of the matter is they're not finding us there as much as they've spoken to a friend who said, well, you really have to speak to, and they call us or they email us, and at least once a week or more. A telephone call comes into our office, or an email comes in through our website, and once they've raised their hands, we're then involved with them directly, first on the telephone, and then as soon as is reasonable, if they are interested in what we do and we think that they have the wherewithal to engage our services, we are then direct contact. For example, only 5 minutes before I walked in to sit down and speak with you, one of my associates left a message for me to say that she had met with a prospective client that's a very small organization dealing with eating disorders in Easton, Massachusetts, has a budget of probably less than $1 million. It's unlikely that we will be able to work with them, but will I take a meeting? Absolutely. Somebody will buy somebody coffee, and we'll see if there's anywhere in which we can be helpful to them to enhance their fundraising capability.
And maybe if you can't, that's a good meeting, and they know other people, other organizations, and it becomes something from that too.
Exactly right.
What was the, grunt work at the very beginning to get to where you're at now?
So I remember I told you about the USS Constitution Museum.
Yeah.
The way I found out about that was there used to be something before you were born in newspapers called classified ads.
Oh, yes. I've seen these in the libraries.
Sure,
yes, yeah.
Right, in the archives. And they actually had an ad. And I replied to the ad and said, I'm clearly overqualified for what you're looking for, but let me do this, this, and this. And that's how we got together. And I would regularly send out applications for jobs for which I was overqualified, and ended up getting many clients, and it happened faster than I knew what to do.
That's a really good approach. I'm saying there's, internet job boards, and Glassdoor, and all these other places.
Exactly the same way. Sure.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
I have to think about that. Maybe I could build my business.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So you mentioned having a mentor as far as finances in this beginning. Did you have other mentors?
No, I've been blessed with many people who have been advisors, financial management, legal counsel, accounting, all sorts of things. I'm a consultant. I know what I know, but I also know what I don't know. And I go out and I acquire for myself consultation in the things that I need in helping me. I've had consultants in marketing. I've had consultants in all kinds of things that have helped me build my business and create a balance in my life.
Were there any groups that you were a part of at the beginning, other consultants where you'd bouncing ideas off each other?
It wasn't something that I was directly involved with, though there were many organizations that tried to create such. And, there would be people who created networking groups of consultants, all of whom were in different areas. There would be only one fundraising consultant, and only one executive search consultant, and only one marketing consultant, and only one financial management consultant. And we all had one thing in common. We needed to find ways to acquire clients. And so we would share in that way, but not so much in the realm of all in fundraising. What I did in order to kind of fill that gap was I began to teach, and I've been on the faculty at Brandeis University for a quarter of a century, where I've been training the next generation of fundraisers. And I found that I got wonderful ideas from students who would come and study with me, and who would then go out into the field, and with whom I would stay in touch. Many of whom ended up becoming clients, by the way.
Yeah, and questions they'd have that you wouldn't think of.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
If you were starting today, is there anything you do different from when you started?
Gee, I'm not 100% sure I can answer that. Different, well, it would be different only because of the methods of communication that we employ today, the nature of the kinds of fundraising that people are doing. I mean, when I first started, there was no peer-to-peer fundraising to the extent that there is today. And there was no Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram or Pinterest or Twitter or any of those things. And the only thing we knew about an internet was, we could communicate via email in a very rudimentary way in 1991, 92 when I first started out.
Right, yeah. What's been the biggest, mistake you've made over the years in consulting, if any, as far as maybe taking the wrong client that was sucking up all your time or something like that?
Yeah, well, there have been a few like that. And there have been some for whom, I've just not been the right consultant. If I would say black, oftentimes they would say white. It would be a notion that either they couldn't hear what I was saying, or I wasn't communicating effectively so that they could implement the suggestions and recommendations that I was making. I would be less than honest were I to say, no, I've never made a mistake. I've made plenty of mistakes, and I've had clients whom I perhaps regret having engaged with in the first place. But I'm sure there are some organizations that might even have regretted engaging us. That's going to happen. But overall, I feel very good about what I've accomplished for our clients and what I've accomplished for myself and the people who work for me.
What are you most proud of as far as what you've created? Is it a certain approach you have for helping nonprofits, or what is it about your consultancy that you're...
Well, there are several things that I think I'm very proud of. One is we're a small shop, and we have a core value in which one of the two principals in the firm is involved with the client from beginning to middle to end. We don't simply make rain and then hand off the service delivery to a junior associate. The second thing that I think I'm very proud of is that we've developed certain niches in which we work. We have become the go-to firm in terms of conducting searches for university chaplains, regardless of faith, across the country, and have done so for some of the great universities of America. We also have done things in which I think we've helped many small organizations create fundraising capacity which they never believed they themselves had, so that they're able to be sustainable and continue to serve their communities and fulfill their mission, which otherwise they might not have been able to do. And whether it's an independent school or it's a synagogue or a small church, we feel very, very good about those kinds of things. And we've also worked with some very large, complex international enterprises and have helped them engage with donors and funders more deeply. And I feel good about those too.
Yeah. Excellent. As far as tools and different services you use to do your job, do you have any favorites? Like, is Excel an invaluable thing for you? What kind of software and tools?
Yeah, well, we do use all of those for sure, but there are some prospect research tools, particularly Donor Search, which is something developed by Bill Tedesco, which we are very high on, and of course the fundraising report card and Market Smart, which is invaluable in terms of our ability to provide service to our clients and help them identify ways in which they can raise money more effectively, more efficiently, at less cost. And so those have been great tools for us as we've developed our practice.
Yeah. As far as time management, how do you get all the things you need to get done?
Yeah, I don't sleep a lot. Actually, I try to maintain as disciplined a life as possible. I take care of myself and I take care of my family, and I spend a lot of time with them, and those are my priorities. And my clients know that if they communicate with me, they'll hear back from me before the sun sets.
Yeah.
And it may only be temporizing, but more often than not, it provides them with the answer they need. And we are proactive with our clients because we know what we need to do. We don't take a cookie-cutter approach, though. We assess the needs of each and every one of our clients and then develop programs and services that will take them from where they are to where they want to be.
Okay. Do you delegate? Like, are you pretty good about delegating work?
Probably a great weakness.
A weakness of yours, yeah.
Not a huge delegator. Yes, I have people who do things that support the work that I do, but I do them as often as others because I can do them as quickly, if not more so, and it gives me a chance to get inside the data and inside the workings of the organization. That means I can be much more informed as to how to help them best.
Okay. Yeah, more hands-on approach.
Very hands-on.
What's your biggest challenge you've faced over the years consulting?
I think we've been pretty good in terms of the balance. I think we've managed not to take on more than we can do, but that's always a risk. It's to either accept an assignment which, we may not have the capacity for in terms of time or staff, or for which we may not have the skill set and for which we may not be the best one. And there's I guess an arrogance, if you wish, or a desire to be able to do everything for everyone, but you can't. And so there's some things in which we are a little bit knowledgeable, but not totally knowledgeable. And we have to know when, a long-standing client has asked us to do something, and we have to say to them, we're not the right ones. You should go talk to this one or that one. For example, we know quite a bit about direct mail, but there are people for whom this is their life's blood, and we refer people out for that. And we know quite a bit about planned giving, but I would not say to you that I am up to speed with what's going on in the tax codes and the latest tools that donors can employ for a planned gift. And so we refer that out as well. We can take them so far. We can diagnose a problem, and then we might, in fact, refer them to one of our friends.
So you'll send them out versus trying to work directly with the person you're sending them to?
I've gotten to that point clearly, though there was a time when I didn't want to let any of it go because I didn't want to see the revenue going out, away from me.
Right. Yeah, makes sense. Yeah. As far as the business model, has that changed over the years? Has it always been the same as it is today as far as how you produce money out of the consultancy?
Yeah, I mean, other than, the fees have changed clearly and in reflection of the times. But we think that we charge fairly, and more importantly, we give good value. We wouldn't have been in business for more than 25 years. We wouldn't have had a record year in 2016 with greater revenue and more clients served than we've had in any prior year. I wouldn't say that there was a period of time in which we could say every single year was better than the prior year. That is, of course, until we hit the Great Recession in 2008, 2007, 8. And we took a dip like everybody else, and we saw our business fall off a third. We are now so far beyond that, as is most people in terms of their income and wealth with whom we deal in the philanthropic sector, that it's a memory which we are very keenly aware of and which we watch for indicators of. But we are roaring ahead. There is a need and a desire to go and raise more money, to do good things, and people are not afraid now to go out and ask, which is, I think, a very good thing.
Yeah, indeed. As far as your consultancy, you mentioned having some partners now.
I have a partner.
A partner? Okay.
One partner and 6 associates.
Okay. As far as divvying up clients, how do you decide?
In some cases, it's geography.
Mm-hmm.
My partner's in New York. I'm in Boston, so that may dictate it. Though I have clients in the metropolitan New York area and beyond, and my partner has clients outside of the metropolitan New York area that I might normally serve. We create virtual teams for each client, so it's not always the same, but there will always be one of the 2 partners, sometimes both of them, depending on the nature of the client, involved with the client, and 1 or more associates, depending on what the specific needs of that nonprofit are. And that virtual team will stay in relationship to that client until the project is done or the engagement is completed. And then, another team will be created when another project comes on board. And we manage 8 or 10 or 12 projects at any one time.
Excellent. Well, when we come back, a quick lightning round. Guess who we got to sponsor this week's episode? Well, nobody. So here's some info about what we do at MarketSmart. Are you a consultant looking for the most effective donor survey tool ever created? Give Survey Gift Maker by iMarketSmart.com a try. MarketSmart knows how to write, design, and code surveys so they deliver results, capture data, build engagement, and raise money. Survey Gift Maker is the ultimate survey system for nonprofits. Add some fuel to your consultancy business with iMarketSmart.com's Survey Gift Maker. Learn more at iMarketSmart.com. With that, let's get to the lightning round with David A. Mersky. Okay, we are back for lightning round. First up, what's the best piece of business advice you have ever received?
Buy low, sell high.
Next up, what piece of advice would you have for yourself as a 25-year-old?
Spend more time reading.
What's your favorite personal productivity habit you've developed over the years?
Touch it once. If I see it, I deal with it, and I move it. It's either, in electronic terms, it's either respond, file, or delete.
What's the best under $100 purchase you've made in the last month?
I think the best one is probably a multi-charging device in which I can put 4 USB chargers into a single electric outlet.
Yeah, excellent. Well, traveling, that's, for sure.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite monthly subscription?
My favorite monthly subscription is still the National Geographic.
What's an interesting fact about you that most people don't know?
Well, most people know that I am a rabbi, so that's not one they don't know. An obsessive when it comes to golf.
Do you have a favorite course play?
My home course up in Maine at Cape Nettic. When you play one course enough, even though it's always a challenge, you get to know certain nuances, and you know where to go and how to play it, and therefore it becomes a more honest test of your skill because you have that local knowledge.
What is one of your most important passions outside of work?
My family.
Desk or car, what would you clean first?
desk. I do not use the car to store things.
Do you have a favorite animal?
I think my grandchildren's new dog. I really love her. She's fabulous. An Australian Labradoodle.
Tea or coffee?
Coffee.
What do people never ask you that you wish they did?
They ask me everything because that's the nature of the relationships that we build.
Yeah.
I'm pleased to say that we may be consulting about one thing and we invariably get questions about another.
Yeah.
And that's the best kind of relationship when you become a trusted advisor.
Yeah, for sure. What is the most common error you see nonprofits make, and how can they avoid doing that?
I think it's largely in not nurturing leadership and donors and letting them know how important they are, whether it's the leadership who is on the board and who make the day-to-day decisions and set the policies, or it's the donors without whom none of it would happen. And the failure to nurture and cultivate relationships with them and let them know how valuable they are is what leads to the lack of retention amongst donors, which is a tragedy in our sphere today.
What are the best nonprofits doing right?
Well, in a manner of speaking, the best ones understand how important stewardship is. The best ones are transparent, are accountable, are open to sharing information clearly with donors and funders as well as their leaders, and therefore don't have the problems of lack of donor retention that is afflicting the vast majority of nonprofits today.
What charities do you admire?
I have interests in higher education and in independent schools and in some health-related enterprises, all of which have touched my life personally. So the ones that my wife and I support are the ones in which we have been directly involved. Some of them dealing with immigration-related issues today, some dealing with food insecurity and instability, some dealing with poverty. Not that our lives have been touched, but we know that we need to do and provide to the community what we've been blessed with.
And where can people find more information about your services?
Well, they can go to our website, www.merskyjaffe.com, or they can call me directly. There's an 800 number on our website that they can find, and I often pick up the phone. It's amazing. People thought I was getting an answering machine.
Well, thank you so much, David, for your time. It's been wonderful.
Tim, I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to How I Built My Fundraising Consultancy, presented by MarketSmart. To learn more about David, you can visit merskyjaffe.com. That's merskyjaffe.com. If you're a consultant and want to share your story on the podcast, please email tim@imarketsmart.com. I look forward to sharing your story and speaking with you. Thanks for listening. We'll be back in a couple weeks for a brand new episode of How I Built My Fundraising Consultancy, presented by MarketSmart.